Have you ever just stopped and wondered, why people do the things they do?
Mm.
Or maybe even why you react certain ways, even when it feels, well, totally counterintuitive.
Oh, absolutely.
What if I told you there are these hidden psychological currents, sort of constantly shaping our decisions, our interactions, even how we see reality?
That's exactly right. It's true. Beneath the surface of just, everyday life, human behavior is this really complex, often confusing landscape.
Right.
And it's influenced by forces we rarely even consciously acknowledge.
And that's pretty much our mission today. We're taking you on a deep dive into all that, into those enigmas. We're pulling insights directly from psychological research to give you, well, a real shortcut to being well-informed.
Yeah, the goal is to uncover the hidden triggers, those subtle influences, and yes, even the, let's call them, darker aspects of the human mind.
So you can navigate the world with, hopefully, greater clarity and awareness.
Exactly. You'll discover some surprising facts, I think, and relatable examples. We'll go from the very foundations of what drives us all the way to modern influences like social media and even that unsettling phenomenon known as dark psychology.
And it's not just about understanding other people.
No, not at all. It's definitely about understanding yourself, too.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We really have to start at the very beginning with maybe one of psychology's biggest questions. What fundamentally drives our behavior? Is it nature, our genes, our biology? Or is it nurturing, our environment, upbringing, all those experiences? It's a huge debate.
It's the classic question, isn't it? And what the research consistently shows is that it's almost never just one or the other.
Right, it's not so black and white.
No, think of it less like a tug of war and maybe more like a complex dance. Our genetic blueprint, it might give us certain tendencies, maybe a predisposition to anxiety or perhaps a natural talent for something. But how those tendencies actually show up or whether those talents get developed, that's profoundly shaped by our experiences, our culture, our relationships. The environment can literally switch genes on or off.
Wow.
Influencing how our potential actually unfolds in the real world.
So it's not just what we're born with, it's how life actively shapes that inheritance.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense.
Precisely.
And speaking of shaping us, let's talk about those hidden psychological triggers. These aren't always like rational thoughts, are they? They're often subtle, often unconscious things that really influence our decisions and actions every single day. And we're often completely unaware they're even working.
Totally unaware. These underlying mechanisms guide countless choices from, the brands we like to how we react in social settings. They're like silent persuaders operating in the background.
Could you give an example?
Sure. Like the mere sight of a crowd can trigger an unconscious feeling of social proof. It just makes us more likely to join in or follow along. Or, a sudden loud noise triggers that primal fight or flight response, even if there's absolutely no real danger. These automatic responses just bypass our logical brain.
And they dictate a huge chunk of our daily behavior.
A significant portion, yes.
And sometimes those automatic responses get tangled up with what we call cognitive biases. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Definitely.
Because these mental shortcuts our brains use, they can definitely lead us astray. Two big ones are confirmation bias and the sunk cost fallacy. How do these biases kind of trip us up in ways we might not expect?
Right. Cognitive biases are basically efficient, but flawed mental shortcuts. Confirmation bias is a perfect example. We don't just prefer info that confirms what we already think. Our brains actively seek it out and prioritize it. And at the same time, we conveniently ignore or just dismiss contradictory evidence.
We're sort of building our own echo chambers without even trying.
Exactly. That's why social media echo chambers are so powerful. They constantly feed you content that validates your existing worldview. It makes it incredibly hard to genuinely consider other perspectives.
The real trap isn't just believing what you want, it's that you're actively filtering everything else out.
You got it. We're building our own mental walls brick by brick, as you said.
Yeah, okay. And what about the sunk cost fallacy? That one feels really common.
Oh, it is. It's fascinating because it snares even really rational people. It's that feeling where you've poured so much time or money or, effort into something.
Like a bad movie you just have to finish watching.
Exactly. Or a failing business project, a relationship that's clearly over. You just can't bear to let it go, even when objectively cutting your losses would be the smartest move.
Why do we do that?
It's not just about the wasted resources themselves. It's the emotional investment that keeps us stuck. It prevents us from pivoting to something actually beneficial.
Okay, so if our own minds can trick us like this, Imagine how easily that vulnerability can be exploited when someone intends to manipulate us.
Yeah.
Which leads us, I guess, directly into the shadows. This idea of dark psychology. What exactly is it, and how do people use it? And just to be super clear up front, we're talking about this to understand it,
Absolutely.
not to endorse it in any way.
That's a crucial distinction. Dark psychology basically explores the unethical ways people influence others, the manipulative tactics they use to exploit psychological vulnerabilities for their own gain.
So it's about understanding control, coercion, deceit.
Yes, understanding the mechanisms behind them. And that understanding is key to recognizing these forces and protecting yourself from them.
And certain personality types often come up in this discussion, like narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths. Are their approaches different? What kinds of tactics do they typically use?
Well, they can all be manipulative, but their core motivations often differ. Narcissists, for example, primarily crave admiration and validation.
Yeah.
So they'll use charm, flattery, but then switch to devaluing or criticizing to maintain control, always needing to be the center of attention.
Okay. And sociopaths or psychopaths?
They're characterized more by a profound lack of empathy, a lack of remorse. They tend to see people as objects, as tools to get what they want. Sociopaths might act more impulsively, maybe more radically, while psychopaths are often more calculated. They can be very charming, meticulously planning their exploitation. But all three might use similar tactics: deception, intimidation, and especially gaslighting. They leverage that emotional detachment to manipulate without feeling bad about it.
That really clarifies the different sort of engines driving them. And it leads to this broader idea of exploitation and control. We hear stories about cult leaders, con artists, maybe toxic partners. What psychological tricks are they using to get people under their thumb?
Well, they often target people when they're vulnerable or going through uncertain times. A really common tactic is isolation.
How does that work?
They subtly, or maybe not so subtly, cut the victim off from their usual support systems, friends, family. This makes the victim more dependent on the manipulator.
Creates a bubble.
Exactly. Then they gradually chip away at the victim's self-worth, making them doubt their own judgment, their abilities. Think about cult leaders. They often use love bombing at first.
Overwhelming affection.
Yes, followed by intense ideological indoctrination, strict rules, rewards and punishments, and controlling all the information. It effectively dismantles someone's old worldview and replaces it.
Wow.
Con artists build trust really fast, then create urgency or exclusivity to rush people into bad decisions. Toxic partners might use constant criticism and undermining to erode confidence.
So the common thread is breaking down their autonomy, their sense of reality.
A systematic erosion, yes. It's incredibly unsettling.
It really is. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's look at influence in a more maybe everyday context. The art of ethical persuasion used in marketing and politics. What are some effective techniques there?
Oh, there are many, and they leverage basic human tendencies. Two incredibly powerful ones are reciprocity and scarcity.
Okay, reciprocity.
That's our deep-seated urge to return a favor. If a company gives you a small gift, a free sample, even just helpful advice...
You feel a little obligated.
Exactly. You might feel a subconscious obligation to buy their product. In politics, a campaign might offer a specific benefit, expecting voter support. It's that I owe them one feeling.
Got it. And scarcity.
Scarcity plays on our perception that things are more attractive if they're limited. Think, limited time offer, only 3 left in stock, exclusive access.
FOMO, fear of missing out.
Precisely. It taps into that fear and prompts us to make quicker decisions, often without thinking it through completely. It implies value because it's rare.
Makes sense. Now, something you mentioned earlier, gaslighting. It's a term we hear a lot now. How does it actually work? Why is it so dangerous?
Gaslighting is a really insidious form of manipulation. It's where someone systematically undermines another person's sense of reality.
How do they do that?
They might deny events that clearly happened. They might dismiss the victim's feelings. Oh, you're just crazy. You're too sensitive. They constantly question the victim's memory, their sanity.
Here's over and over.
Yes. And over time, the victim starts to doubt their own perceptions, their thoughts, their memories. It leads to intense self-doubt, confusion, feeling like you are going crazy.
That sounds terrifying.
It is. It's so dangerous because it erodes your trust in your own mind. It makes you increasingly dependent on the manipulator for your sense of what's real. You lose touch with your own inner compass.
Wow. That feels like it could be a step towards something even more extreme, which makes me ask, can someone actually be brainwashed?
Yeah.
Like, truly.
Well, brainwashing conjures these dramatic movie images. Right?
Yeah, like Manchurian candidates.
All right. But the mechanisms are rooted in intense psychological pressure. It usually involves prolonged isolation from any outside views, creating a high-stress environment, and then systematically breaking down the person's existing beliefs.
Shaking their foundation.
Exactly. Once that foundation is rocked, a new, often very singular ideology is hammered in as the only truth. This often involves things like sleep deprivation, constant repetition of messages, complete control over information.
It sounds like reprogramming someone.
It preys on our basic need for certainty and belonging, especially after your previous sense of self has been dismantled. So yes, profound shifts in belief and identity can occur under extreme conditions.
That's chilling. And it brings us to another powerful behavioral response: obedience to authority. The Milgram experiment is the classic study here. It showed how far people would go.
It really did.
What were the big takeaways from that research, the really enduring, maybe chilling implications?
Milgram showed that ordinary people would obey an authority figure, even if it meant doing something awful in this case, delivering what they thought were painful electric shocks just because they were told to.
Just because someone in a lab coat said so?
Pretty much. The really chilling part isn't just about labs or obvious uniforms, though. Milgram suggests our own conscience can be surprisingly flexible when faced with perceived legitimate authority.
So it's not just dictators.
No, it makes us vulnerable to subtle, everyday pressures, too. In workplaces, social groups, where just following orders or going along feels easier than questioning things, our moral compass can bend.
That makes you think about what's happening inside us. If external authority has that power, what about internal experiences, like trauma? How does trauma actually impact the brain? And why might some people end up repeating toxic patterns because of it?
Trauma can literally rewire the brain, especially areas involved in fear, memory, and emotional regulation, like the amygdala, the brain's alarm system.
So it becomes overactive.
It can become hyperactive, yes, making people much more reactive to perceived threats, even minor ones. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, which handles rational thought and decision-making, might become underactive.
What does that feel like?
It can lead to a state of chronic vigilance, like you're always on alert. Difficulty processing new information, maybe interpreting neutral situations as dangerous. And as a result, people might unconsciously seek out or tolerate familiar but toxic patterns.
Not because they want to.
No, absolutely not. It's because the brain is stuck in a kind of survival mode. It repeats what feels familiar, even if it's harmful, because it's known. It's a real struggle between consciously wanting to heal and the brain's ingrained, protective, but sometimes maladaptive mechanisms.
It seems like so much of our behavior boils down to survival instincts, even when they're flawed. Which makes you think how easily fear itself can be used for control. We see it in propaganda, conspiracy theories. How does that work? What makes people susceptible?
Control through fear works by painting a vivid, immediate threat.
Making it feel real and urgent.
Exactly. And then offering a solution that requires you to comply or adopt a specific belief. Propaganda often exaggerates dangers, demonizes an enemy, predicts catastrophe, all to evoke strong emotions that bypass rational thought.
And conspiracy theories.
They tap into our innate need for meaning and control, especially when things feel uncertain or chaotic. They offer simple, often dramatic explanations for complex problems. Blaming a hidden evil force can feel strangely more comforting than accepting randomness or complexity.
Who's most vulnerable?
People who feel powerless, maybe those seeking a strong sense of belonging, or those who already have a high distrust of mainstream institutions can be particularly susceptible. These narratives offer easy answers, a clear enemy, and a sense of order.
It's clear the mind is complex. And now we live in this increasingly digital world. How has social media specifically just transformed our behavior, our attention spans, even our sense of self-worth? It feels like we're still catching up.
Oh, profoundly. Social media has reshaped us incredibly quickly. It's created this constant public feedback loop, comparison, validation.
Keeping score.
Right. We end up comparing our messy real lives to other people's carefully curated online highlight reels. That often leads to lower self-worth, more anxiety.
And attention spans.
Undeniably shorter for many people. The constant stream of new, bite-sized content trains our brains to expect rapid shifts. It makes sustained focus on one thing much harder. And social interaction itself has changed, more emphasis on online performance, maybe less on deep, authentic connection.
And it often feels like people can be much harsher, crueler online than they'd ever be face-to-face. There's a term for that, right? The online disinhibition effect.
Yes, exactly. The online disinhibition effect helps explain why people might become more aggressive, critical, or just generally less filtered online.
Why does that happen?
Several factors play into it. Anonymity is a big one. Also, the lack of immediate face-to-face cues. You don't see the hurt or anger on someone's face in real time. There's a feeling of distance, maybe invisibility.
So it's easier to lash out.
It's easier to say things you wouldn't dream of saying in person when you don't see the immediate impact. This can lead to a breakdown of social norms and a much more hostile online environment.
And all of this, the scrolling, the comparing, the disinhibition, it feels like it's amplified by the algorithms. What tricks do social media algorithms use to keep us hooked, keep us scrolling?
Oh, they're meticulously designed, almost perfectly engineered, really, to exploit our basic psychology. They use variable reinforcement schedules like slot machines.
Unpredictable reward.
Exactly. That little dopamine hit from a comment, an interesting post, it's unpredictable but frequent enough to keep you pulling the lever, basically, keep you scrolling.
What else?
They prioritize emotionally charged content. They know strong emotions, good or bad, drive the most engagement. Anger, outrage, excitement.
Gets more clicks.
Gets more clicks, more shares.
Yeah.
And they create filter bubbles, constantly showing you more of what you already like or engage with. This reinforces your existing biases and makes it harder to look away because you feel like the platform just gets you.
It's a personalized echo chamber.
A never-ending feedback loop designed purely to maximize your time on the platform.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. From our basic biases to these complex digital traps. The really critical question then becomes, how do we protect ourselves? First off, how can you even tell if you are being manipulated? What are the signs, especially the subtle ones?
Awareness is absolutely your first and best defense. Look for consistent attempts to undermine your perception of reality, like someone constantly denying things that you know happen or making you doubt your memory. That's a huge red flag.
Okay, what else?
Pay attention if someone tries to isolate you from your friends, your family, your usual support network. Another big one is how you feel around the person. Do you consistently feel confused, guilty, anxious, like you're always walking on eggshells?
That gut feeling.
Trust that gut feeling. Also, notice if someone's words consistently don't match their actions, or if you feel persistently pressured into doing things you don't really want to do. Those are significant signs.
So listen to your intuition and look for patterns.
Exactly. Patterns are key.
And once you spot those red flags or even just suspect something's off, what are the best ways to actually protect yourself from manipulation? What can we do?
Okay, building on trusting your gut, try to consciously detach emotionally just for a moment and look at the situation objectively. What are the facts? Second, maintain a strong, diverse support network.
Talk to people outside the situation.
Yes, trusted friends, family, they can offer that crucial outside perspective, especially when your own reality feels shaky. Third, set clear, firm boundaries and stick to them.
That can be hard.
It can be really uncomfortable, but learning to say no without feeling guilty is incredibly empowering. Fourth, keep educating yourself on these tactics, like we're doing right now.
Knowledge is power.
It really is. The more you understand how manipulation works, the less likely you are to fall for its subtle hooks. And finally, if you're in a situation that feels deeply manipulative or controlling, please don't hesitate to seek professional help. A therapist can offer vital tools and support.
That's really practical advice. This whole deep dive is really a bit about understanding these deeper currents. How does getting a handle on dark psychology and just human behavior in general actually make us better equipped, more aware, maybe more empathetic?
It fundamentally empowers you. When you understand the triggers, the biases, the manipulative tactics, both in others and, importantly, in yourself, you gain immense clarity.
You see things you didn't see before.
Exactly. You can spot situations where you might be vulnerable or where others might be trying to influence you unfairly. And this awareness, it doesn't have to make you cynical.
No.
No, ideally it makes you more discerning, more resilient, and surprisingly maybe more empathetic because you start to understand the why behind people's behavior, both the good and the bad.
You see the drivers.
You see the drivers. You learn to assess information more critically, recognize influence, make more informed choices, not just for yourself, but in how you interact with and understand the people around you. It helps build a more robust, resilient self.
Wow. Okay. We have covered so much ground today. I mean, from the absolute core drivers of behavior to the hidden ways influence works, subtle and not so subtle, and wrapping up with the digital age. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
But understanding these hidden psychological currents, both the light and the darker sides, it really can offer huge clarity in just navigating everyday life.
Absolutely. And that was the goal, really. This deep dive wasn't just about listing facts. It was about trying to equip you, the listener, with tools. Tools to critically assess situations, to recognize influence, and hopefully make more informed decisions in your own life.
Seeing the unseen forces.
And figuring out how you can navigate them better.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you to maybe just mull over. How might understanding these subtle psychological triggers and biases, the ones playing out in others, but also inside yourself, how might that fundamentally change your daily interactions, your perceptions of the world around you?
It's a good question to sit with.
Keep exploring, keep questioning.